guys. Welcome to another episode of Cocktail Therapy, the podcast. I am your girl, Vixia's Faith, and I got a special couple with me today. My homeboy, my classmate, my friend Tadario Harris, and his wife Daphne. And we're gonna talk about building together. If you think about a power couple, right? You think about people who are working in their gifts and their energy, they're supporting one another, they're pushing each other's businesses, and you see them growing together. And this is, that's what I think about when I see them. Like I've been watching them for years, just interact with each other and push each other to greatness. So I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourself and kind of tell people like what y'all do, and then we're gonna keep going.
Ladies first.
Well, I'm Daphne Booker Harris. I am the CEO and founder of Global Children's Services, Daffy Duck Learning Academy. I am the CEO of Global Preschool Consulting, where I help entrepreneurs and early childhood educators across the world expand and grow their childcare businesses. And I am the better half of the Harris couple. We've been married now, I want to say 8 years. And we've decided that our vision is bigger than anything else that we could have ever embarked upon. So I'm excited to just have this conversation today about marriage and relationship, because that's everything that we do is built upon that.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Todd Harris, Tadario, if you really know me. Harris, native Memphian, graduate, classmate, like she said. I call her Faith. I don't call her this kids. I call her Faith. So classmate of hers, 1998. Graduate, University of Memphis, owner, operator of Metropolis Real Estate Services, Metropolis Real Estate Development, and of course, co-owner and everything with respect to the childcare brand as well as the childcare consulting brand. So, as well as we are the owners of Mayweather Boxing Fitness,
Yes.
our first franchise venture here in Tennessee.
Okay. That's it. So normally we have drinks because it's called cocktail therapy.
Okay.
I just got some sangria tonight because
Okay.
I just came and did that. I didn't tell y'all, so it's fine.
Okay. All right.
But that's what I have tonight. That's what I'll be sipping on while we're having this conversation.
That's cool.
I want to start off with how you guys met.
We met at work, to be honest. We met in 2012. I was operating in the capacity as a leasing broker for a commercial property, and Miss Daphne was the tenant of the property. We didn't start dating, and I want to make sure everybody know this. We didn't start dating until after I wasn't the property manager, and she made the first move. She let me know that she was interested. I wasn't what people say. I wasn't inappropriate. I don't think at any point in time throughout our business relationship, and I think that's what she found different about me and attractive to me, is that I was never inappropriate with her. And then, she, like I said, she stated her case. She let me express her interest. And then when I got out of a relationship, maybe 6 months later or a year later or so, I asked her to go for a walk, and we've been walking and going out ever since.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Daphne, let me ask you this: what really attracted you? What was attractive to you about us?
So the thing was, we were friends. And I knew exactly what he was looking for, and I knew what I was looking for.
Okay.
But what attracted me to him, I could see his vision, right? He would tell me about what he wanted to do and the ambitions that he had and the things that he really wanted to do. And then one day he called me and said, friend, I need you to do me a favor. And I said, okay, what is it? He was like, I need a tenant. I need you to be a tenant, but not really be a tenant. And I said, okay. He said, but I want to show you first, right? So I said, okay. He said, meet me at the property. So he sent me the address and I went over there and he showed me this property. We went to the property and he said, my dream is to have this on the property, to build this and to have this. And he started sharing his vision with me. And in that moment, I could not only listen to his vision, I started visualizing his vision. And I said, I can see what he wanted. And then that's when it hit me. My grandfather told me, when you meet a guy and he tells you his vision and you can actually see it, then that is the person. And that's when I looked at him and was like, oh. Like, oh. Because I could see where he was going. And I'm like, oh, I was just excited. So I didn't know how to really share that with him. So I just said, I waited a few days and I called him back and said, well, instead of me being a pretend tenant, how about I be a real tenant? How about I invest in where you're trying to go?
Wow.
And so that's how, in that moment, I knew that it was more because I could not only listen to his vision, I could visualize it. And now that place where he told me that with all the things that he's going to do, we own that whole block.
Okay, buy the block.
Whole block, and he told me that he was going to buy that before we was even a thing.
That's good. Wow. So Tadario, what made you say this is my wife, this is my queen, this is who I'm about to? what made you say this? It's her.
It's crazy. And I know people gonna listen to this and be like, "What? It was it? That's all it was." So, so growing up in an urban environment, I'm a '80s baby. My mom and dad were not together. I was raised in a single parent household. My mother was my primary caregiver, but as I grew up, I would have those opportunities to meet my dad and see my dad throughout the years as an adult growing up. As a youth growing up. And it was my 18th birthday. It was around my 18th birthday that we were at. I saw my dad outside of the main library, which at that time was over on Cooper by Central High School. When I walked by him, I told my then girlfriend, she was like, "What's wrong with you? Your energy changed. You different." I said, "I just walked past my dad," and she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's my dad sitting out there." She was like, "That bum sitting out there?" I said, "Yeah, that's my dad." So she couldn't believe it, and then I went out there and I had a conversation with him. Well, as a result of that conversation, my dad that was in 1997. 1997, 1998. Within 2 years of that conversation that he and I had, so give it 2000, he's been clean and sober for the past 24 years.
Oh, wow.
He credits the conversation that he and I had that day with his decision to change his life and become a clean and sober individual. Well, in those conversations that we had as we were trying to bond, again, you're talking about, for all intents and purposes, an adult bonding with an adult. So he's looking at me like I'm his little baby, and I'm no longer his little baby. I'm a grown man. So we would have conversations, and of course, some of those things we just didn't agree on because your vision, your way you see things, isn't the way that I see things because I grew up differently than what you were. And if you had been present, you probably would have had some type of influence on how I began to see things and how I interpreted information, but you were not there. So everything that I formulated from either, you know, other role models, other male role models, and not my dad. Well, one piece of information that he gave me was really the deciding factor and how I chose and why I chose Daphne to be my wife. And that is, and y'all, everybody on this podcast about to fall out laughing, but it's the God, the honest truth. My dad told me, he told me in a conversation, the only woman that he ever really loved in life was my mom, and he tells her that. Not only does he tell her that, he tries to show it the best way he can, you know, and then with the way that he can. Mm-hmm. So that conversation, he told me, he said, you know, your mom was the only woman I ever loved. Your mom was the only woman that I really feel like ever really loved me, and I just couldn't see it. I just was too young and immature to deal with it at the time. So now I'm hurting because the person that I know that was there for me, I mishandled. He said, but you know, son, I want you to know the things that your mom did when we were dating before you all came along. You know, they were very impressive to me. They were different than all the other women that I ever dealt with. And he said, the thing that made your mom stick out to me, he said, it's going to be simple. He said, you're going to think it's crazy. He said, but when your mom got out of bed every day she got out of bed with me and she went to do what she had to do and I went to do what I had to do, your mom took the time to make the bed up. And I said, what? He said, she took the time to make the bed up. She told me that, you know, a woman, her first duty, her first place in a relationship with the man is to ensure that the bed, it wasn't the marriage bed, but that's the language that she used. But the bed was a sacred place. Mm-hmm. She would get up every morning after they got out of bed or whatever, and she would make the bed, and they, you know, do their exchange and leave. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's a crazy scenario, but you know, that's the one bit of information that my dad gave me about my mom that stood out. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff you kind of see, but that stood out. So when I met Daphne, we started dating. We spent our first night we spent together. I got up and left early that morning to go to work. Mm-hmm. And then when I came home, the bed was made. And then, wow. Yeah, so I looked at her and I said, you know, interesting. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, we'll just see how things play out, how it plays out. So, you know, as the course went on, as life went on, our pattern, our history, that time we were just getting to know one another. When we did have an opportunity to spend the night with one another, every morning that she got up, she would make the bed. And that was just one of those things that stood out to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we talked about vision, and how Daphne was really attracted to that, and she saw that. So, did y'all have a goal? Like once y'all got together, and y'all started dating, and you knew that this was going to pass dating, did y'all have a vision for like what your marriage would look like as far as that building together? Did y'all sit down and have those discussions and those conversations?
I think the short answer is yes. And I think that I was more focused in the beginning than she was. The truth of the matter is Daphne had just gotten out of a marriage when we met. She hadn't been out of a marriage 8 months when we started dating.
Yeah.
And, you know, she said that it was crazy, but she said, you know, you came in, you were different. You were more serious about things. And I let her know after about a month or so of us just kind of talking and being cordial with one another that I wasn't in the market for a girlfriend. I've had a lot of girlfriends. That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for a wife. And if she didn't want to be a wife, then it's best that we just remain friends. She kind of drugged me along for another month or so without giving me an answer. And then I told her, I said, you know, I'm going to give you 6 months of my time. If we're not engaged or married in 6 months, then on the morning after that 6 month day, that whatever that 6 month time period is, I'm going to count the days. The day after, I'll be different, and it'll never be the way. I'll never look back at you again in that way. I will definitely be done with you. And we got close.
I heard no man get no ultimatum.
Yeah. And so within that time frame, I was thinking that he was just joking because I had never had anybody.
Because he be joking. Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking that he was joking. So we kept spending time together, but I really wasn't taking it that serious. And then when that 6 month time, he took me to lunch. And he basically set me down and said that I had to make a decision in that moment.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, he's serious. But it wasn't that I didn't want to or I didn't believe in him. I just had never experienced anybody that was that forthcoming, like was sure on what he wanted. Because why? I had just got out of a previous relationship, just got out of a previous marriage. So I had all of these thoughts in my head, like, what if he's not who he say he is? What if he's pretending? What if I'm just meeting his representative? I already have children. I don't know if I want my children to be around another man. Like, I had all these thoughts going through my head before I could say yes. And so I went in the bathroom, and I was in the bathroom like, oh my God, I got to give him a decision today. And oh my God, I got to give him a decision. And I called my best friend, and she was like, what? Girl, he's everything you've been praying about. You try everything else. Won't you try something else? And I hung up the phone from her, and I prayed about it. And walking from the bathroom to the table, I still didn't know what my answer was going to be.
Oh, wow.
I sat down, and we started talking about something else, and he led me back to that question. And I said, yes, let's go. Let's see where it goes from here. And we've been together, we got engaged, and we got married and all that stuff. And from that point, he was always more serious than I was, because I'm a girl that came from the hood. I'm a girl that came from, I didn't have anybody to show me the roadmap to business. Mind you, my husband went to school for business, okay? And he went to school from business. I learned from the school of hard knocks. And so we had two different perspectives on what business looked like and what that consisted of, right? I learned from the hustle mentality. My husband, like, we got to create a strategic plan. And so first, he had to work with the person that was within and help shift my mindset. So he knew that I was a strong Black woman, and he couldn't tell me exactly how it should be done, but he had to show me how it should be done. So he would pull out chart papers at the beginning of our relationship. He would pull out chart papers at home and put them across the wall and explain to me and give me examples of why we should pay our bills on time. Why we should pay our bills on time? Because for me, I came from the hood. I came from the projects. When we got our utility bills, my grandmama got an extension on the utility bill.
Yeah.
We didn't pay the bills when they were due. We paid the bills after the extension. We get an extension to get another extension, and then we get from paycheck to paycheck and month to month. So we couldn't pay bills like that. So it wasn't, when we got married, it wasn't all peaches and cream, because it was a process. I had to grow into building this empire. So people look at all the things that we have now, but it took a shifting in my mindset in order for us to get there. And it took for him to have the patience enough to understand that his background was totally different than my background. In order for him to even expose me to what he was trying to, he had to have the patience to teach me that. So he had these chart papers, and he would show me the budget and how we should do this. And then he was like, well, even though I could do it, I'm not going to do it. You're going to be challenged with the responsibility of making sure the bills get paid on time. So those are things that, we did at the beginning. And so along the way, we created a plan of attack on how we was going to build our family empire. But it wasn't something that was just we're gonna do off the bat, because he had to shift my mindset first in order for me to even see that we was building an empire. Because I was just worried about the day, the moment, and the hour.
Right.
The long-term vision of the relationship, but it took me a while to even get there.
Yeah. One thing that started, that plugged that the beginning of her willingness to change is, you know how when you dating somebody, and I tell people this story, women, y'all go looking for stuff, and she was looking for, what she was looking for was a way out. Everything that she was looking for, every letter that she read, every door that she opened, every box that she opened, she was looking for a way out, and there was no way out. And one of those boxes led her to I kept all at this time. I kept all of my bills because I was single. I kept all my bills in a box in my room closet. And she went into the box, and she went through the box and everything, and she looked at all my bills and everything. When I came home, she was like, she was unsettled. I could tell she was unsettled. And I'm like, okay, maybe she found an old letter or something like that. She was like, she finally said, I got a question. And I was like, what? She was like, I went into your room and I found something. I started laughing. I said, I was wondering when this was gonna come up. I'm thinking it was gonna be, an old love letter, something I just didn't know was there. And she was like, no, it ain't got nothing to do with it. I read this stuff. I threw all it out a couple of weeks ago.
It's gone. It's been gone. Yeah.
I know who those people are. He said, but all your bills got minus signs in front of the number. What that minus sign mean? And I started laughing. I said, when she asked that question, I felt like she was ready to receive the information. And I said, the minus sign in front of all of my bills means that amount of money that's behind that minus sign is what the particular bill has as a credit, or what that particular company, if I was to call them and tell them to send me a check, they would send me a check for that amount, because that was the amount that was just being held in their on my account for what that bill was. And I was like, so that's a credit amount. She was like, you got a credit on all your bills? She looked and she was like, you got like 10 bills in there, and all of them got minus signs in front of them. I mean, every one of them. And they not small minus signs, they minus signs of a couple $1,000, $3,000. I was like, yeah. I said because I'm in real estate, when I get sums of money, I have to pay my bills up in advance.
Yeah.
So that when it gets rough and it gets dark, I buy myself 6 months, 8 months, a year or so of being able to have a rough patch, but still never having the experience of being, delinquent on any of my bills and my credit and stuff being affected. So that was the beginning. That was the beginning of the conversation of wealth and taking control of your financial destiny. That was the beginning of that conversation. That at that moment right there.
Wow. So and I see this because we see all these relationship gurus and all these people that talk about certain things. Had there been challenges in your previous relationships to where you may have tried to possibly show the person that you were dating that you might have been a little serious about, not somebody you was just dating fun, but you might have been a little serious about? Had you ever tried to show them something different and maybe they didn't receive it?
You want to answer it?
For me, it was I did try to show in my past relationship something different, and that person did not receive it, because I was big on making sure I had a relationship with banking institution, because I came from the banking industry. So I knew how important it was to have, a banking relationship. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that was big, because I felt like, every adult should have bank accounts. You should have, that. And so the person that I was with felt like going to a check cashing place, was okay. And putting their money.
Not the one with the business degree.
Not him. But
no, not him. Yeah.
And so I felt like, that was a red flag to me. Like, you want to go to cashing places and have your money on these little cards so you can get paid early. All that stuff was kind of insane to me. So me being able to adjust in this relationship, it wasn't that hard because I knew that I had to have a financial relationship with a bank. And I knew that savings and all of that stuff stayed apart. I just didn't know how important building finances would be to building an empire. So it took the piece that I knew and what he knew to build all of this. You know what I mean? For it all to come to life. So I always say, my motto when it comes down to me and him, I always say the one that God kept for me. And I say that because he was the missing piece to my puzzle, and I was the missing piece to his puzzle.
So the for me, yes, I've been me for a long time, if that makes sense.
You have. You really have.
I've been me for a long time, and me being me in past relationships was I would say that it was I was overlooked and underappreciated. For the who I am and who I was at that time, and I'm of course evolving and growing and becoming a better person. I've the things that I'm doing in this relationship, they the ingredients have always been there. I just wasn't in the right pot to make that gumbo taste good. So once I found the right pot. All the ingredients that I have, all the seasoning that I bring has been appreciated in this relationship, whereas it was not as appreciated or appreciated at all in past relationships. So so that's the truth of the matter. And I do her as well as we get those random phone calls, those random text messages, those random emails saying, hey, I'm proud, so glad that you're doing well with your spouse or whatever. Wish I had listened to you then, so forth and so on. So yeah, we definitely I can say we definitely have those types of interactions. Yeah.
Got you. Okay, so let's talk about vision and family empire, right? Dario had this dream, this vision. I want to buy this block. So you buy it into the vision, right? So what did it take for y'all to get to the point? Because definitely, when did you start your childcare business?
I met him in my first childcare center. So I already had my first childcare center. Okay. So I was already on an entrepreneur journey. But what I tell people is the vision wasn't there for me. Okay. Because you got to understand, when you grow up in a place that you've never seen anybody do certain things, you can't dream to have multiple centers. You can't dream to have an empire because you don't know nobody that looks like you that's doing this. So I can't say that I've always wanted to do this. I say that, then I'll be telling the story. I can't say that I've always wanted to have multiple childcare centers and leave a legacy for my children. I can't say that because I didn't even know that it was possible.
Got you.
I didn't even know it was possible until I got married and got in this relationship. And my husband was like, hey, we can do this and we can do this and we can do this. And so one thing led to another, okay, now we got our finances together. Now we're able to buy this particular property and we're going to sacrifice this to do this. It was like all of it was a strategy. And so that strategy, led to one business after the next and one center after the next and one property after the next. So it all became, a part of the strategy that we had. But with a vision, I can't say that I had that at first. It took for me and him to get together for me to even know that it was possible. So he'll tell you, when I had that aha moment, it came from exposure, because he know that I'm bullheaded. And so it takes me to really process information sometimes. So he would say, well, Daphne, I think you should travel the world and expose yourself to other things. And it wasn't until I exposed myself and put myself in different rooms with individuals that doesn't look like me. And I was in those rooms and I saw individuals in that room own 20 chakra centers, 30 chakra centers. They own charter schools. And I was in the, and I'm a little black girl from, you know, from South Memphis that's sitting in this room with all these gurus. And I'm like, oh my God, this is possible. I'm dreaming too small. Oh, I'm not dreaming big enough. And I remember I started feeling this feeling in my belly. And I called him on the phone and I said, babe, I'm not dreaming big enough. I'm not dreaming big enough. My dreams is too small. He said, what does it mean? I said, you said that we can have 25. I said, let's go for 25. Let's go. But it wasn't until I went into other rooms and started exposing myself to different things so I can expand my mind, so I can learn more to realize, okay, that the value that the person that I have bring, the value that he's bringing is to help me multiply. The value he brings to the family is to cause us to increase. He has the ingredients. I just got to know how to put it together. And so once I really understood that, we've been rolling ever since, but it took me to have that aha moment to even know that it was possible. Because for me, I'm like, I ain't about to go broke. I want to see my zeros in the bank. I need to count my dollars every day. Every time I pull up my phone, I need to log on my account and count my money. But see, I didn't realize that I was hurting myself by thinking like that. I was hurting myself not wanting to invest my money into other things. But expose myself to realize the things that I needed, it was already on the inside of him. I just had to trust my husband's vision in order for us to build the empire.
You know, my wife oftentimes talk about this when she goes out and talk, you know, she does public speaking.
Right.
She talks to people about me. She oftentimes tell people, and I told her this, and she didn't really realize it until she started traveling with me, that oftentimes I'm the youngest and the only me in the room. It's starting to change now that I'm in my 40s, but you know, for the longest, I would be the only black male, and I generally would be the youngest person in the room. And in those rooms, she began to hear those conversations and those things that she thought was not possible, but then she would hear it from these other people that are doing it, and they've been doing it for a long time. And now she realized like, oh, that's when she would come and say, hey, babe, we can do this. And then I'm like, yeah, this is this, and this. And she'll say, you already know about that? I'm like, yeah. And then she'll say, why you haven't done it? I said, because I haven't had you to partner with to do it. You know, if I have this information and I'm telling these people that this is possible, the people have to be willing to do it. Yes, now again in my 40s, my late 30s, 40s, that people are beginning to realize that, man, this dude has a lot of knowledge where this business and where real estate and stuff is concerned. And you know, I posted on my Facebook a while ago. You know, I think what I'm going to have to do is not try to show people how to do it. I think I'm gonna have to do it, and they see me doing it. Maybe then they'll be inspired to do it. But my hope is that I'm not too busy and too big once I start doing it myself, that I'm not willing and in a position to help others
and reach back. Yes. Okay, so how has you all growing and building together affected your family? Like, I think I've seen your baby got some properties and that. So tell me what was the end result of that, and how was that sparking the minds of your kids?
Okay, so I'll take that if you don't mind. I'm going to say this: all of our children are entrepreneurs, either they're already entrepreneurs or they are formulating and wrapping their mind around the idea that they want to build as an entrepreneur. I don't think that any of our children will work a quote unquote 9 to 5 where they're reporting to build a business that is not owned by them. Okay, that's the short and sweet of it. The the more in-depth aspect of it is we purchased a building a couple of years ago that was in the seven figures. And we purchased that building after a conversation between our oldest and our youngest. Our oldest and our youngest. At the time, she was 25, 26, and he was 11 or 12. Okay. We went and took a look at the building, walked through it, and on the drive home, they were asking questions about the operation as it currently stood. And they literally, between the two of them, dissected, did quick math and everything, and asked us at that point to go ahead and buy the building. That building is 14,000 square feet. It sits on 3.5 acres of land, and it's licensed for over 300 children. And that business alone, when it's at capacity, will employ 40 to 50 people in that one building. So when you look at the math of it, the aggregate of it, that one building will put us in a position to be 50% out of the category to be classified as a small business. Once you have 100 employees, you're no longer considered a small business.
One corporation,
right? So that one building, once we build it to capacity as far as the enrollment is concerned, will give us 50% of the way. And if once we build it plus what we already have, we'll be well outside of the small business category and be able to be classified as in a different classification of business where the government is concerned. So yeah. So our children, they won't work for anybody, and their mates, the people that they're choosing to be in relationships with, either are building as a part of our family empire. They're either quote unquote employed with us, or they're helping the person with whom they are coupled with to build a business outside of the businesses that we have now. So our oldest, she just got married. We're super proud of her. She's going to take over. Her and her younger sister are going to take over the childcare business when as we grow up and grow old and grow out of it. They're going to be the ones to take care of it. She just got married. She married a awesome young man who is going down the road of he's right now a career guy. He's a firefighter, but he's taking all of his money that he's saving and putting it into the stock market and doing that real estate as well.
Yeah.
They got married in November of 2024, and last Wednesday, almost a week ago, they purchased their first home.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're renovating their house to move into, and they thought they were coming back to our house. I was like, no. I'm gonna go out and find you something. So I found them something. They bought it, so they're moving into their house probably by the end of the month. It's a guy who you knew him as a little boy. He is working in the fitness industry along with his older brother Ray. And our plan is to turn over the Mayweather Boxing Fitness business to Ray, and hopefully by the time we turn it over to Ray, there's enough pool of resources there to where if the guy wanted to get his own brand, one of the franchises, he'll be able to do so. And then Oriana, the youngest daughter, she's going to work with her older sister. She's already said that, and so she's working on a daily basis in the childcare. So she's learning the operation of childcare from the ground up.
Yeah, because she's homeschooled and she goes to school, and the rest of her time she works hands-on in the school.
Wow. That's
in
awesome.
Orlando, the youngest just had his birthday Saturday, the 1st of February. He's 15. He's going to go into real estate and construction. And I tell anybody, all of them. I even tell the older ones to their face, y'all think y'all doing something awesome. You haven't seen awesome until you see your little brother. Your little brother's he's gonna make all of you all look like y'all dwarfs. And I make sure I state that, and I let him know that I believe that because I really, really, really do think that all of my children are gonna be successful. But I think we haven't seen success until we see him do what he ultimately will do.
Because at 15 years old, he can appraise a property by just looking at it and tell you whether the property is good. I wanted this property because it was by a lake, and I was looking from an aesthetics, it was beautiful. Oh, it's by a lake. Oh, it'll be a great property to have. So market because it's by a lake. And so he was like, Mom, do you know what's wrong with this property? I'm like, no. I said, it's by a lake. What you talking about? And then he said, well, I could tell you 10 things. Was it 10 things? I could tell you 10 reasons why you shouldn't buy this property. Wow. And I said, if you give me 10 reasons why we shouldn't get this property, then we're not going to get the property. He ran off 10 things. And when he told me about the property line was too close to the water for safety, I just closed the front door, went and sat in the car, and I didn't want to talk no more that day.
You said you done messed up my dreams and hopes.
So it gave me 10 reasons, but the reasons weren't just things that it wasn't all because of he was looking at the aesthetics. He talked about the restructuring the house. He talked about how the house was structured, the pipes and that. Like he talked about things like that, and I'm looking at him like you're 15.
Wow.
And so when we say that he's gonna be like, his mind is way different than the other children because he sucks up everything that they do and what we do, and then all of the things that he read online. Right. So it's like on steroids because he know a lot of information and he's just 15 years old.
Yeah. He looked at their property, Faith. I mean, he looked at their property, and I just listened to him. I just stood back and I just listened to him. And the thing that I knew I wasn't going to buy the property based off of the conversation that we had in the house, he and I had in the house, but he had to prove it to Mom. But the thing that jumped out to me is something that I didn't consider is he told me in the house, he was like, the reason I don't think this is a good buy, he talked about the property line, but he said, insurance on this house is going to be high because it's so close to the water. Mm-hmm. And because it's so close to the water, you're not going to be able to, any family that you would get here with small children wouldn't be a good investment because it's so close to the water. Mm-hmm. And he said, then if you think about that, if then that's going to make you be geared toward an older person because the older person that has older children, they'll probably look at the house. He said, but the older person isn't going to want it because they got to go upstairs to go to bed. And he said that, I was like, done.
And then on top of that, you got the water behind the house. If it rains and it floods, you got to get flood coverage. So it's a whole nother separate insurance.
He was 50. He was like, he broke it down like that. And so when he did that, I realized, he's on an entrepreneur journey and his mindset is different. He always tells his friends, yo, you got to go to work. Man, you got to go to work. Man, we work for ourselves. So he don't understand 9 to 5 or 8 to 4. Like he don't understand that.
Yeah.
Because he's been taught well.
Yeah. So it's interesting to get them together. And like I said, we involve our children in all decisions, business. We want them to be a part of every decision where business is concerned, because ultimately, when our head get cold, it's going to be, if they're still alive, of course, it's going to go on to them, and we don't want to buy something that they're going to view as a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one thing I want to share that we did not talk about is when you asked us about the children and the part they play. Everything relative to the business, we sit down as a family and we create a plan for it. And everybody has a role in each business. Wow. Everybody has a role in each business that they play. even in the fitness, you know, we all have a role that we play. Even the girls have to help with the outdoor workouts. When we do outdoor workouts, they have to work the registration table. They have to help their brothers with that. So even the boys, they have to come and they have to help with the fitness with the kids. So everything that we do, every child has a role in the business, and they understand that it's a family business. And so we sit down and say, this is how much the family is generating this business, this business, this business. And this is how much we're trying to save. And this is how much we're trying to invest. So they know all of these things. And not only do we sit down and give them that plan, they tell us their plan and vision for the family business and what they're going to add to the family business.
Right. Because, you know, again, we want them to be invested into it. So, you know, when a child comes to us for a business opportunity that they found, and we're in Mayweather, we own the Mayweather franchise as a result of our oldest son wanting to own his own fitness facility. So he came to us with a pretty much a master plan. He looked at it online and everything. His mom saw it and said, "Hey, take a look at this." He did the research and came back to us with a plan and said, "This is what we're going to do, or this is what I would like to do."
Yeah.
We knew what we had to invest into the business and everything. Not only that, as she stated, each of his siblings, you know, are members of his studio. Each of his siblings are members of his studio. They
have to pay membership.
Right. So they take you know, their money on a monthly basis and pay their membership. Not only that, you know, they all have, like she said, a role in the business. So there is no such thing as that's for the girls and this for the boys.
Right.
All of this is ours, and we all contribute to some degree with the success of the business, the various businesses. So like she stated, the young ladies, they work on the fitness business in the sense of customer service. And then the guys, the boys, they work in the childcare business from the sense of operating outdoor programming that we do that require male presence. Anytime there's a construction project going on with the centers, they are generally involved in it from either a project management standpoint or, you know, paying vendors and or going to get materials and everything for those jobs. So they are deeply ingrained in the business, and so much so that we have two grandboys, and our grandchildren are beginning to understand and be able to, you know, talk the language of that other entrepreneur. So, you know, right now one of them is on Michael Jackson craze, and he got his little brother doing the same thing. But when his mind is focused, you know, he'll come in and look at a construction project and say, "Hey, you know, let me help put those floors down, or let me help do this. You know, let me run and go get this material, go get this hammer or whatever." So, you know, we try to expose our children to everything, every facet of the business. And I think that's one of the biggest things that my wife and I talk about. And we promote on the House of Harris, which is our brand that we're building to promote couples doing business with one another and building business, making it common that, you know, as a couple, you come together and you co-build businesses. We have our children and we have everyone kind of invested into that, so that now, as we stated, as our children are getting older, they're deciding to get married and so forth. And so on. They are choosing mates who believe and who have been indoctrinated with the way we see things. And I think it's going to be a powerful, awesome thing to come about. So, you know, we're talking, it's just us two, but we're talking 7 other households potentially that's affected at this present moment, our 5 children and our 2 grandchildren.
Yes. So let me, and we're in Black History Month. And I know we had to create businesses in our communities back in the day because we couldn't walk through front doors and we couldn't shop in certain areas and we couldn't participate. Do you think that we would have been better off if we had to continue the legacy? Because, you know, let me hear me out. I see a lot of the mom and pop stores that we had in our communities now going to other races, right? Nothing wrong with that. They entrepreneurs, they doing it and they understand. I think all the other races, there's been a complaint about maybe the Arabian community or the Asian community coming in our neighborhoods and selling to us, the consumer. Whereas those stores that they may have taken over might have been owned by your Uncle Charles or by Nana or whomever. And what happened was that we got to the point where we're just gonna sell it. We don't want to put up with it. We don't want to deal with it. We're gonna get rid of it. So how important do you guys think that us cultivating a culture within our community that pushes entrepreneurship and also a sense of community? And if we had continued on that track instead of when the new generation, got up and started selling stuff off, and we had kept those things in the family in our community.
Well, it's so funny that you would say that because my husband will tell you how passionate I am about building community and making sure that we keep things within our community. And the reason why I'm so passionate about that because of basically what you said, mom and pop, right? I think about when I grew up, my grandparents owned a childcare center when I was a little girl. But when I became an adult, they no longer own that childcare center because no one in the family wanted to keep that tradition. No one wanted to keep it. They all was like, well, that didn't work for daddy, that didn't work for mom, so we don't want to do it, right? And so what we decided to do is break generational curses by making sure that we teach our children about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Let them understand that your parents work hard to build these things, right? To build these things and how attractive it'll be for you to keep it going. But what happens in our community, we're taught that when your children ask you for something, you say, well, I don't have no money for that. I don't have no money for that. I don't have it. So your children grow up to think whatever you do is not that important because every time they ask you for something,
you ain't got it.
You don't have it. All they see is the struggle of you standing in the store late or you're working hard, you stand out, you got to cook the food, you got to stock the shelves, you got to greet the customer. So to them, what you build for years is a burden because that's what you portrayed it to be. So it's not attractive for them to keep it because they don't want it to be a burden on them because they saw that it was a burden for you. And every time they ask you for something, you say you don't have it. But because you have the mindset of I'm gonna put it in my savings for later, and then you die, your head get cold, and then you have this saving. Your kids don't even know that you have it, and then they blow it all in 60 days. For one, they didn't even know you had it. Two, they don't value the thing that you work for because you didn't show them how important it was. And so that's why mom and pop die in the community because we're not open to saying this how much money this grocery store brings in. I bring in 7 figures on this corner, but I'm going to take everything that I have in my mind and create a system. We can't build generational wealth and we can't pass it on to our children with the information being in our head.
Yeah.
In the community, we have to create a corporate mindset where we take everything we have and put it in a system, in a process. See, our community, it's all in our head. So when Grandma Miss Ida May die, it goes in the ground. Nobody knew how she patted those hamburgers to perfection because she didn't have a process in place. So if you think about Burger King and McDonald's and all these places, they have processes. So in our community, where you have a business, don't just have it in your head. Create a process, create policies, procedures, put these things in place where when something happens to you, your children can take it and run with it. Not just take it and run with it. They know exactly who they should go to, and they know exactly how to make it flow. We don't create the right systems for things to be on autopilot because the business only run with the person who started and it stops with the person who died.
That's true. So I'm gonna go deep.
Okay.
I'm gonna go deep. My grandmom asked me before she passed uh, what I thought about integration, and I gave her an answer at that time. And the question was, do she asked me this question: do I think that integration helped or hurt our community? And I felt like it helped our community because of all the opportunities and things that I saw,
Yeah.
people in Congress, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And her position was that integration hurt. And she said, I'm going to just tell you, as you live life and as you go throughout life and you look at things, you'll begin to realize, because I'm telling you this the way I see it as a person that at that time, she was in her 60s and she died in her 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So she told me, she said, that it hurt us. And she said the reason I can say that it hurt us is because you don't know a time where every business that you went into was owned by a person that looked like you. I do. She's like, you don't understand what it looked like to be able to go. Every store that you go into in your neighborhood was somebody that you knew and could touch, so forth and so on. And not only could you go into that neighborhood and that store, that business, and get do business with that individual, that person also employed the people in the community. So as she told me about that, I said to myself, and I told my wife, and I said this in our family meeting. I said, we have to have jobs and create jobs so that our children will have a place to work. I grew up from an entrepreneurial family. It wasn't always legal entrepreneurial.
Right.
It was.
I got you. We here.
So being said, the one of the most successful businesses in my family was a corner grocery store that received state recognition as well as U.S. recognition. It was called Roxy's Groceries. Okay.
I love them burgers, Lord. I miss them.
See, there you
Okay.
go. That was my aunt and my uncle's
Okay.
business. So I had an opportunity to learn the grocery business and entrepreneurship through Roxy's, and my other uncle, Andre and Maxine. They were married at the time. Maxine's Groceries. So I had an opportunity to see that on it was very small granular level, but I came from a culture of having a business to employ, if not people in the family, the community.
Yes.
I am 44 years old. I've been Black a long time.
A long time, all your life.
And I can say, I talked about earlier that oftentimes I'm the only me in the room and I'm the youngest me in the room. And I can tell you, in the rooms that I travel in, that I circle up in now, you'll be surprised how many conversations are had by other communities that say to the people in the room that look like them, other demographics, that we need to help the Black person become more of an entrepreneur and more Black wealth. I mean, they say it on public stages. They not only do they say it, they're beginning to direct funds in that way, because they realize that if they don't do it, if they don't help the social ills that we have in our community are going to grow exponentially. And they are the ones in the position to do so. Now, I know that's going to sound like a crazy statement, but that's the truth. I'm telling you what I've heard on stages where everyone in the room is a millionaire.
Yeah.
Everyone in the room is a millionaire. And I hear this gentleman stand up and say, hey, we have the people in this room are successful, but we need more of them. And that person did not look like me. He did not have my hue. She did not have my hue. So I will say that other communities are beginning to have that real conversation about building Black wealth, because they realize that we have had a hard time in this country for so long, and they, in their abilities and in their position, they're willing to do something about it and willing to put money behind it as well. So if they can't throw money behind it, they'll put their resources behind it. So when you see me and my wife, we're in rooms with Master P, and we're in rooms with Dr. George C. Frazier, and we're in rooms with Dr. Delano Johnson. When you see us in these rooms with people that look like us, trust and believe, when they have conversations with us, we are trying to put together something that's going to build a economic base that all of us, when I say all of us, I mean us in the United States and throughout the diaspora, will be able to benefit from. But we have to have those conversations, and we have to be able to, speak intelligently and be able to put, again, what my wife stated, a system together that will help us realize that we ain't talking about overthrowing the government. We're not talking about it. We're talking about having an institution of government in our communities that can create opportunity and can cure the ills that our community first faces, not other communities.
Right. So this is my last question. I hear a lot of times people have been tossing around the word submission, like all over the place. Like, and a lot of times when I hear guys speak of submission of the wife, they don't talk about the other part of the submission of the husband, because y'all, they have to submit. The husband has to, in the Bible it says, submit unto your own your husband as he submits unto God.
Right.
So my question is for you guys, how important did that role play for you all? Actually, first of all, I want y'all to define submission, number one. And number two, how important did that role play in you guys coming together and actually building with one another?
Great question. Submission is yielding to what is right in all forms. If you can't yield to what is right, and it's a clear definition of what's right, you can look at there are no situations where there is no right and no wrong. It's a clear answer of what is right. If you submit and you do what is right at all times, no matter what the result will be and how it affects you, I think that you will be able to understand and appreciate when what you just stated, submission to God. Seek what's good to God and not what's good to you. I tell my wife, and I said this to her, I'm gonna make it real easy for you. This is what I'm going to be. I'm going to be this. I'm not going to have you fighting for what I should be doing. I'm going to go ahead and submit and say, this is what I'm going to do. Now it's up to you whether or not to accept it, because sometimes people feel like if they haven't conquered you, or if they haven't beaten some out of you, or I'm just gonna say conquer you in a particular fashion, that it's not worth it. That you're too easy. You're too easy going. So, there have been situations where I've been accused of being too nice. But I tell my wife, I said, baby, if I wasn't nice, then what would that bring? That would bring chaos and craziness into our household. So in order to submit, I had to first submit to me, and submitting to me was that I feel, and I told her this, submitting to me was doing the right things by my family, no matter how it made me feel. I tell her a lot. I say, babe, inside of me is another person. And that other person is struggling to come out. But Allah, God, has kept me at a point to where I've been able to keep that other person at bay, because I'm seeing the benefit of me sitting on my flesh and not allowing my flesh to take over.
Yeah.
So I said to her, I defined what I was going to be as a husband outside of what you was expecting as a husband. But I need to know from you, what can I expect from you as a wife?
Gotcha.
And so when we had that conversation, she was like, I never, the first time I asked her the question, she said, I never thought about it. I always thought about what I wanted in a husband, but I never thought about what I was going to give in a relationship as a wife. So, I don't know if I answered the question.
You did. I think you did.
Yeah, I think that the first order of submission is not to something outside of you. It's the submission to you. You got a lot of people around here walking around with diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. And they eating, God knows, they eat all the things that's going to contribute and exacerbate their problem.
Right.
They talking about, I'm not going to submit to a man. I know you're not going to submit to a man. I know you're not going to submit to a woman because you haven't even submitted to you. You won't even listen to yourself. You won't even listen to your body asking you not to eat it.
Right.
So, when I broke it down to her in that way, she understood, and then we began to see a lot of difference because I'm Muslim. I practice Islam. Christian. So all of the definitions and people that she all her friends, all her family, girl, he gonna have you covering up. You ain't gonna have to talk to nobody. You can't eat no pork. You ain't gonna be able to eat no meat. He gonna be doing this. He gonna all these things. So she came into the relationship with that in her mind that I was gonna be this way. As much as she tried not to hear it, she heard it. So anytime I did something that looked like it was gonna go that way, she was on top of me, like fighting me. I said, "What are you fighting me for?" And then she finally told me why she was fighting me. And I said, "Man, this is crazy." I said, "So because you had this experience with someone in the past, you're gonna think that I'm that way." I said, "How about you wait and see if it's going down that road before you begin to react, before you begin to jump on top of it."
You have those preconceived notions.
Exactly. Yeah. I said, because what I want you to understand is that I don't look at you like all the other women, because you different. So anything that you say, you might call me a MF, a low down MFer, but the low down MFer that you calling me, although I've been called that before, is different because you seeing me as a low down MFer from a different perspective, and I have to listen to that. And there's a different experience that calls you to call me that. So I have to look at the whole of a thing and not just look at a piece of it. So so submission is just submitting to you, put you down low, and like I told her, I said, "Babe, I'm not gonna fight with you." So she come in, trust and believe. My wife is feisty. She wanna go toe to toe with everybody, and especially me. And I just look at her. I say, "Okay, baby, whatever, you have it your way." And I gone on to something else. And then one thing that she's beginning to realize and beginning to understand is that I ain't got no fight in me for you. I'm not gonna fight you. I gotta fight the world all day, every day. So I be damned or I be darned if I come home and have to fight you.
So when you talk about submission, I know for me, I had to learn to just submit to myself. See, I think a lot of times people be so worried about submitting to the other person. But in order for you to be great and show up the way you should show up in a marriage, you have to submit to yourself, because yourself have all these preconceived notions and these thoughts of what you think or your expectation of what the world told you. And so you come into the marriage or relationships with unrealistic expectations.
Right.
And for you not to be there, you have to submit to yourself first. So I had to first submit to me before I can ever think about being anything on that list that he emailed me. Because my husband's an emailer. He's gonna email his thoughts.
Not you giving PowerPoint presentations.
He's gonna email his thought process or what he's thinking. But he emailed me what I should expect for him and what his expectations for me. And so when he did that, it made me really sit down and think about what I wanted, what I needed to be for him, and what I wanted him to be for me. So I had to work on me before I can ever submit to him. And there was a whole lot of submitting to myself, because a lot of times I have to submit to me because I say a whole lot of stuff I shouldn't say.
One time, and I'm gonna share this, and she kicking me, she nudging me under the table. Y'all don't see that. She nudging me under the table. But this is one of those, I'm very transparent moments.
Mm-hmm.
One time, we had a really heated argument on the way home from the airport. I picked her up from the airport. We were on the way home from the airport. Mm-hmm. She just going out. And in the going off, she said, I hate when you have me waiting on you to come pick me up. That's why I gotta have my own car. I don't never want to be waiting on the man to come pick me up. Because when I was with such and such and such and such, that's how it would be. And she said that, and I let her get it all out. And I said to her, I said, sweetheart, she said, what? I said, you do realize that I'm not that person. I said, you do realize that this is different. And she was like, no, it ain't different. You got me waiting. And I said to her, I said, do I have you waiting? Or am I asking you to do something that will make it more convenient for both of us? And she was like, what do you mean? I said, you get upset with me when I pick you up from the airport when I'm not right there by the curb. And she was like, yeah, I get upset with you because you're not right there by the curb. I always got to wait on you to pull up or to circle around or such and such, whatever it is. And I said to her, I said, do you realize that as a black man sitting in the airport arguing with a police officer can get me killed? And she looked at me. I said, what you are upset about could lead to my death.
Yeah.
I said, when you simply, all I'm asking you to do is to take me out of harm's way. She was like, how do you figure that you're in harm's way? I said, because if I'm standing there arguing with the officer about me moving, and they feel like what I do with my hand gestures or something is a threat, they could potentially shoot me. You can't say that it couldn't happen because it's happened before. Yeah. She looked at me. She said, I never thought about it like that. I said, so when I ask you as my wife, when you come off the plane, because keep in mind, it's hundreds of other people getting off the plane.
Right.
I ask you to not be, because, she flies Delta, she's first class.
Okay, first class.
Yeah. So she flies Delta. So, those Delta flights, it's like 3, 4, 5, or 6 of them all come in at one time.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Daphne, rather than you waiting right at the Delta entrance, if you look down the walkway or if you look up the walkway at the beginning, if you at Spirit or if you down there by United, do you realize there's no traffic up there? I said, so if you would just simply reroute yourself, walk up that way, I could be on the side of the curb waiting on you right there, but I can't be on the side of the curb waiting for you in all this congestion. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me. When epiphany happens with her, there's no verbalization that I've
right.
Just there's this awkward silence.
Yeah.
And in that awkward silence, she just looked at me, and she looked, because again, I'm a visual person. I had to take her back. I spent back around and went back to her, and I showed her the congestion. I said, that's what you see me not being there, but you don't see me trying to get to you. And if you would just simply walk up the way, it'll be easier for me to get to you than me down trying to get into this congestion to get you pulled out of it.
Yeah.
She looked at the congestion, and she looked at the people, how the individuals talk to the people that are sitting there waiting on their mate. And she said, oh, I never noticed that most of the people that ignore them, they white people. She was like, I ain't never noticed it. She said, if they're female, if they are black, they're generally black females. the black men that I see have this interaction, they just get on out and go on around. She said, I never noticed that before.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I'm battling, which is different from what you see. But that's my reality. So if you would be so kind as to just simply walk up the way, I can get. If you look up there, it's nobody up there.
Yeah.
I could swoop down there. I could park, sit probably 10, 15, 20 minutes, no issue, because I'm out of the congestion. So from this point forward, when we travel out of the country, or when we're traveling apart, and I'm responsible for picking her up, she makes it a point to get out of the congestion so that I can be there waiting on her.
So I submitted to the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Come on, submission.
Yeah. It took several years of me being fussed at for her to make the statement, because I would have never connected the fact that the reason she's adamant about being in this spot for me to pick her up is because her expectation was for me to be present when she arrived. That was never communicated to me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that once you come out, I can swing around and get you. It's no problem.
Yeah.
She want to come out the door, get in the car, and leave, and that didn't work for her.
That didn't work. Yeah.
So there's just a little tidbit of just being married, and the types of conversations and work that goes into being married from childhood traumas, experience, etc. You bring all those things into a relationship, and you just have to have those open and honest and candid conversations, because you don't know what that breakthrough may lead to.
Wow. Well, let me tell y'all something. I learned a lot tonight. I did. I thank you guys so much for agreeing to join me this evening. I want to have more conversations with y'all, but I know we got to cut off. We gotta go. But I thank you guys for joining us. How can they reach you guys as business? I know y'all got a lot of them, but how can they reach you guys to discuss business, or if they want to get a commercial property, or they want to enroll their child in child care, or they're interested in even open up their own business? How can they reach you guys?
So anything relative to reaching Todd and I, we spoke earlier about our brand that we have together that we do as a couple, which is called the House of Harris. And you go to thehouseofharris.com.
Okay.
We have an Instagram and Facebook. It's simple, the House of Harris. And under that brand, that's where we do all things business and all things relationship wise, because it took us a lot in order for us to be able to build all of this together. And I would love for individuals and couples to just really understand that in order for you to build something, you have to be able to communicate and work together in order for you to build something together.
Yes. Awesome.
Well, we're also on LinkedIn for those individuals that don't use Facebook or IG. We're on LinkedIn under our individual names, Todd Harris and Daphne Booker.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for joining us. Y'all make sure y'all support these black businesses that they got going on. Go get a membership at the boxing studio. Go get some real estate. Go enroll your child in child care, and so on and so forth and such. Y'all make sure y'all support them. Thank you guys again for joining me. I'm very, very honored that y'all came on. And we'll see you guys soon on the next episode of Cocktail Therapy. Make sure y'all are following the page, Cocktail Therapy, the podcast, over on Facebook and on YouTube. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.